G'day, Trooper Cody, or perhaps more appropriately, Police Horse Cody. And you'll see Cody's here. He's got his handcuff pouch on the saddle. He's got his baton hanging off the other side, saddle mounted baton on the other side. I'm in my police uniform, well, very old mounted trooper uniform. And we're going to tell you a police story. And so, what I'll ask the question right at the start. What do you think kills police officers more than any one thing? Now, you might answer that question depending on what country you're from, depending on what sort of movies and TV you like. You might initially say they get shot. Others of you who perhaps talk about cops eating lots of donuts might say that heart disease. Well, perhaps if you looked at America alone, the United States of America, maybe guns and shooting could be the reason. But I'm going to talk policing generally, worldwide policing, and it's not guns, it's not heart disease, heart attacks, cancer. What can it be then? You'd never guess. It's motorcycles. So many police officers get killed riding motorcycles. This particular story is centred in South Australia, and it's going to be about someone who I'm sure you've never heard of, even though he's in the history books, and it's not for the best of reasons. So, I'm going to tell you about Andrew Copley, C-O-P-L-E-Y. And Andrew was born on the 4th of July 1904 in a little South Australian suburb of Plympton. Plympton's not far out of the centre of Adelaide. It's near the tram line. It's a nice little suburb. 1904 he was born there, and he headed off to work in gypsum mines, and he didn't do that for very long because when he was only 24 years old, he joined the South Australian Police Department. So he joined in 1928. He was only 4 months. He was only a copper for 4 months before he transferred to the then Traffic Division. Now the Traffic Division was only started in 1922. You think about 1900 era policing. It was all done on horseback. In 1922, the South Australian Police Department, they bought some what were called outfits. Outfits were motorcycles with sidecars attached. So 1922, they started the Motor Traffic Division, and in 1928, Andrew Copley transferred there. Now, while he was a police officer, he transferred to the Traffic Division and started riding police motorcycle outfits. So he'd only been there 2 years, it's 1930, just performing normal traffic duties, and there were reports that Mile End, which is a suburb virtually on the outskirts of the city of Adelaide, and tram line, the trams were very different then. Most of the main roads had trams running up and down them, and so there were strict laws about the fact that the trams ran down the middle of the road, and when you came up driving along, and there'd be a tram in front of you, and when you came up behind the tram, you had to pass it at 6 miles an hour, because you've got to remember we're not long out of the era of the horse and cart, and people jump off a tram in the middle of the road, they jump off the tram and race across the road, and so the speed limit was 6 miles an hour, or 10 kilometres an hour, when you were passing a stationary tram. There were reports that Mile End, Henny Beach Road, major road into the city, that people were speeding past the tram. He was sent out there on routine patrol just to monitor speeding traffic. A constable called Booth was his passenger. They see a car overtake the tram that is clearly over the speed limit. Copley takes off to go and stop the car, As he himself goes round the tram, he realises too late that there's another tram coming straight at him. He's overtaking one, and there's the other tram coming the other way straight at him. He attempts to swerve in front of the parked tram, but unfortunately is hit by the approaching tram. He receives serious head injuries, broken leg, and he is era again before ambulances. He is put in the back of a passing lorry and driven in the back of a lorry to the Royal Adelaide Hospital, where he is pronounced dead. The passenger booth was only injured in the accident. Copley, Andrew Copley, in 1930, then becomes the first police officer killed in a traffic accident in South Australia. Motorcycles, Motor Traffic Division, only started in 1922. There'd only been one accident prior to Copley's accident on the motorcycle. Copley was the first fatality of a police officer in a motor vehicle accident in 1930. Went 8 years before that fatality. It's interesting that previous to that there had been one fairly serious accident, and what is most interesting about that is that Booth was also the passenger in the sidecar in that accident as well. So Booth was the passenger in both accidents. And then the last thing is, I just should tell you that when I was a police officer, my ID number was 2472. You never forget it for your entire life, because you write it everywhere. 50 times a day you write your ID number, so you never forget it. And Booth, passenger twice, the two accidents that happened prior to 1930, the fatal accident of Copley, and Booth's service number was 13. There's a thought to leave you with. So there's a little bit of South Australian policing history. Not pleasant, but needs to be remembered that the police officer died in the line of duty. The vehicle was supposed to be doing 6 miles an hour, is estimated at doing in excess of 30 miles an hour. And you imagine school kids stepped off that tram, were hit by a car doing 30 miles an hour. You want to see more stories from Trooper Cody, you make sure you subscribe, tick like, click like, do anything you like as long as you like it, make a comment. Cheers, coppers, till next time.